Open the front door of an ordinary American home in 1968, and at first, nothing seems unusual. The carpet is a little brighter than people would choose today. The wallpaper has a pattern that probably came from a catalog. Somewhere in the kitchen, coffee is perking. In the living room, a television sits inside a wooden cabinet like a piece of furniture. And if you start looking closely, you begin to notice something strange. The house is full of things that used to be everywhere. Not rare things, not expensive things, just ordinary things. The kind of things no one took pictures of on purpose because everyone assumed they would always be around. But most of them are gone now. So today we are opening that old memory drawer and looking at 12 things every American home had in 1968 that quietly disappeared. Number 1. The kitchen wall phone. In 1968, the family phone did not live in your pocket. It lived on the wall, usually in the kitchen, with a long, curly cord that stretched farther than it was probably supposed to. That phone was not private. If it rang during dinner, everyone heard it. If a teenager wanted to talk to a friend, the whole family knew. Someone would lean against the counter, twist the cord around their fingers, and try to make a private conversation happen in the least private room in the house. The kitchen phone was part of the family rhythm. It carried birthday calls, school news, neighborhood gossip, and bad news that made everyone go quiet. Then cordless phones arrived. Then answering machines. Then cell phones. And little by little, the family phone stopped being a place. It became something everyone carried alone. Number 2. The metal ice cube tray. Before plastic trays and automatic ice makers, many American freezers had metal ice cube trays with a lever in the middle. You filled the tray with water, slid it into the freezer, and waited. Later, you pulled the handle, heard that sharp crack, and watched the cubes break loose. Sometimes your fingers stuck to the cold metal for a second. Sometimes the cubes flew onto the floor. It was a tiny kitchen ritual. Today, ice simply appears from a refrigerator door. It is easier, cleaner, and faster. But the old metal tray had a sound people still remember. That loud crack meant lemonade in summer, iced tea on the porch, or a glass of soda on a hot afternoon. Number 3. The bread box. A bread box used to sit on almost every kitchen counter. It might have been metal, painted white or yellow. It might have been wooden with a roll-top door. Inside were sandwich bread, dinner rolls, maybe a half-used package of hamburger buns, all kept in one simple place. The bread box was not just storage. It was a sign that food in the house had a system. Bread went there. Cookies went in the cookie jar. Flour and sugar went in metal canisters. The kitchen had zones, and everyone knew them. Then packaging changed. Freezers got bigger. Counter space became more valuable. Bread started living in cabinets, refrigerators, or plastic bags wherever there was room. The bread box disappeared so quietly that many people did not notice until they walked into an antique store and saw one sitting on a shelf. Number 4. S&H green stamps. In 1968, shopping could come with a reward that felt almost magical. At grocery stores and gas stations, families received tiny trading stamps. They licked them, stuck them into booklets, and saved them in drawers. When enough books were filled, they could be exchanged for household items from a catalog or redemption center. To a child, the stamps felt like treasure. To a parent, they were a slow promise. A toaster, a lamp, a set of dishes, maybe something the family would not buy outright, but could earn one stamp at a time. The ritual took patience. It also made everyday shopping feel connected to a future prize. Credit cards, coupons, loyalty programs, and digital points eventually replaced the stamp books. The idea survived, but the feeling changed. No one gathers around a kitchen table to paste digital points into a booklet. Number 5. TV tray tables. The TV tray was the perfect piece of furniture for a changing America. Families were still eating together, but television had become the new fireplace. So the folding tray appeared beside the sofa, holding meatloaf, mashed potatoes, a glass of milk, and maybe a dessert in a small dish. The tray was light, wobbly, and somehow always in the way. But it made a living room feel like an event. Dinner could move to the television for a special program, a ball game, or a Sunday night movie. Today, people still eat in front of screens, but the old TV tray mostly vanished. Coffee tables, couches, phones, laptops, and takeout containers replaced the little folding table with metal legs. The habit remained. The object disappeared. Number 6. The family encyclopedia. Many homes had a row of encyclopedia volumes sitting on a shelf, looking important even when no one had opened them in months. They were heavy. They smelled like paper and dust. They had maps, diagrams, animal pictures, flags, presidents, planets, and just enough information to finish a school report. For a child, the encyclopedia was the internet before the internet. You went looking for one thing and found 10 others. You opened the M volume for Mississippi and somehow ended up reading about mammals, mountains, or the moon. Those books made knowledge feel physical. It had weight. It took up space. Then search engines made answers instant. The encyclopedia shelf became unnecessary almost overnight. But people who grew up with those books remember the feeling of pulling down a volume and believing the whole world might be inside it. Number 7. The button jar. Somewhere in the house, often in a sewing basket or kitchen drawer, there was a jar full of buttons. Buttons from old shirts. Buttons that came in tiny paper envelopes. Buttons saved because someone believed they might be useful someday. The button jar was not exciting, but it told you something about the way people lived. Things were repaired. Clothes were mended. Small parts were saved. A missing button did not mean throwing something away. Children sometimes played with the jar, sorting the colors and shapes. Mothers and grandmothers knew exactly why it existed. Fast fashion, cheap replacements, and busy schedules slowly changed that habit. Many homes no longer keep a button jar because fewer people expect to fix the shirt. The jar disappeared, and with it, a small piece of household patience. Number 8. The milk box by the door. In many neighborhoods, the milkman was already fading by 1968, but plenty of homes still had a milk box near the front or back door. It was a simple insulated box where bottles of milk could be delivered and kept cool. Early in the morning, before the house fully woke up, fresh milk would appear like part of the daily weather. The milk box belonged to a time when services came to the house. Milk, bread, newspapers, laundry, and sometimes even doctors arrived at the door. Supermarkets, refrigerators, cars, and changing work schedules made that world less common. Families started buying everything during one big trip instead of receiving pieces of daily life at home. The milk box became a strange little relic. Many stayed attached to old houses long after the delivery stopped. Number 9. The console television. The television in 1968 was not a thin black rectangle on a wall. It was often a large wooden console, built to look like furniture. It had knobs. It had rabbit ears. It had a screen that needed warming up. Sometimes someone had to stand in a certain spot, holding the antenna just right so the picture would stop rolling. The console TV changed how families arranged a room. Chairs pointed toward it. Evenings gathered around it. Children sat on the floor, while adults took the couch. When television sets became smaller, then larger, then flat, the old wooden console lost its place. It was too heavy to move and too outdated to keep. But for many people, that piece of furniture was where they first saw the moon landing, holiday specials, westerns, sitcoms, and breaking news that made the room go silent. Number 10. The percolator coffee pot. Before drip machines took over, the sound of morning coffee often came from percolator. It bubbled and clicked on the stove or counter, sending the smell of coffee through the house before anyone was fully awake. The little glass knob on top let you watch the coffee darken as it cycled again and again. The percolator was not subtle. It made coffee strong, hot, and sometimes a little bitter. But it belonged to mornings when people read the paper at the table and the day started with a real kitchen sound. Automatic drip coffee makers promise consistency and convenience. Later came pods, espresso machines, and coffee shops on every corner. Coffee did not disappear. It became bigger than ever. But the old percolator's sound did. Number 11. The clothesline and clothespin bag. In 1968, many homes still had a clothesline in the backyard and a clothespin bag hanging nearby. Sheets snapped in the wind. Work shirts dried in the sun. Towels came back stiff, but smelling like outside. On wash day, the yard looked like a private family flag. The clothesline was practical, but it also made housework visible. Neighbors could see that laundry was being done. Children ran between the sheets. Weather mattered. Dryers became more common. Neighborhoods changed, and many places began to see outdoor laundry as messy or old-fashioned. The dryer won because it was convenient. But people still remember the smell of sheets that dried in the sun, because no appliance has ever copied it perfectly. Number 12. The family photo album. The family photo album was usually kept on a shelf, in a cabinet, or in a drawer that everyone knew not to disturb too roughly. Inside were birthdays, Christmas mornings, first cars, school pictures, vacations, babies, grandparents, and blurry moments nobody could quite explain anymore. Photos were limited, so people kept them carefully. You did not take 50 pictures of the same cake. You took one or two and hoped they came out right. The album made memories slow. Someone had to pull it down, open it, and turn the pages. Stories came with the pictures. Names were remembered. Sometimes names were argued over. Today, families have more pictures than ever, but many of them live inside phones and cloud accounts, rarely printed, rarely gathered in one place. The old photo album disappeared not because people stopped caring about memories, but because memories became too easy to make and too easy to lose. And that is the strange thing about an American home in 1968. Most of these objects were not impressive at the time. No one thought the bread box, the button jar, the wall phone, or the metal ice tray would become emotional someday. They were just part of the background. But the background is where a lot of life actually happens. The objects changed because life changed. Families got busier. Technology got smaller. Stores got bigger. Convenience won again and again. And in many ways, that made life easier. But easier is not always the same as warmer. Sometimes what people miss is not the object itself. It is the world that object belonged to. A phone everyone answered. A kitchen where things had a place. A drawer full of small saved pieces. A backyard full of sheets in the sun. A shelf of books that made knowledge feel heavy. A photo album that turned memory into something you could hold in your hands. That is why these forgotten things still matter. They remind us that home was never just walls and furniture. It was 1,000 little habits, tools, sounds, smells, and routines that made everyday life feel familiar. And sometimes, all it takes is one old object in a drawer to bring the whole house back.